Hey everybody, welcome back to another video, and today's video is really exciting because today Sony announced the specs of the PlayStation 5. So we finally got news on the PlayStation 5, really exciting. There was a video PlayStation shared on their YouTube channel that was about like 52 minutes long about the architecture behind the PlayStation 5 and a lot of the design decisions. It was a really interesting piece. You guys should definitely go and check out. But in there, they actually revealed the specs of the PlayStation 5. So that's what we're going to be going over today, whereas we're going to talk about all the other different features and things that are going to be happening with the PlayStation 5 in a separate video. This one's just going to be about the specs. So for the CPU in the PlayStation 5, they say it'll have an 8-core Zen 2 CPU at 3.5 gigahertz, but it will have a variable frequency, so that means that 3.5 is variable. So that means it'll boost up or down depending on the load and by temperatures and like power draw and such. So it's a kind of a different approach to Microsoft, but kind of cool. I mean, it sounds just about the same. They're both going to be 8 cores, but the GPU is going to be a 10.28 teraflop GPU with 36 compute units at 2.23 gigahertz, but this one also has a variable frequency. So this is interesting, 10.28 teraflops. So this officially makes the Xbox Series X more powerful. The Xbox Series X has a 12 teraflop GPU. This PlayStation 5 only has a 10 teraflop GPU. They say the GPU architecture is a custom RDNA 2. The memory the PlayStation 5 will have is 16 gigabytes of GDDR6 memory, and it'll be a 256-bit bus. The memory bandwidth will be at 448 gigabytes per second, and the storage for the PlayStation 5, it'll have a custom 825 gigabyte SSD. So that's interesting. It's almost a terabyte, but that's still good, especially for an SSD. There was a lot of talk recently that maybe for these new generation of consoles, we're going to go back to 500 gigabytes as like the starting amount. But I'm glad that we're actually finally getting more than that. But still, that's not a lot when you think about a lot of these games that are coming out. That's only going to hold a couple of games. So for like expandable storage, there's going to have to be some options there, which they do detail. For the I/O throughput, you have 5.5 gigabytes per second raw and 8 to 9 gigabytes per second of compressed data. The expandable storage will be an NVMe SSD slot. So this is really cool. They talked about this a little bit in that event, where it's going to be able to like potentially use an M.2 SSD slot. Well, they said that they're working on the dimensions and stuff because not all M.2 like slots or drives are created equal, and a lot of them have different dimensions. So some of them are taller, some of them are like longer or wider. So they say don't go out and buy an M.2 for your PlayStation 5 just yet. Wait for them to officially come out and confirm specs or dimensions for it. But they will have external storage support, so you can plug in a USB hard drive for it, and it will have a 4K Blu-ray player, which actually makes it the first time that a PlayStation console will have a 4K UHD Blu-ray drive. But I found the external hard drive support interesting, though, because I've talked about this before in some of my Xbox videos, but I basically said that Microsoft will not allow you to use an external hard drive on your Xbox Series X. Basically because external hard drives are way too slow, especially when you compare them to the internal SSD, and so you won't be able to play any of these new games off of them, because if new games are built around this brand new super fast SSD, and then you're trying to play it off this old, slow, chugging mechanical hard drive, then you're just not going to have a good time. So for them to allow that is kind of interesting. Microsoft had a different approach where they will allow you to use an external hard drive, but you can only use that hard drive to play original Xbox games, Xbox 360 games, and Xbox One games. But if you want to play an Xbox Series X game, it has to be on either the internal SSD or on an external SSD. You can't play Xbox Series X games off of a hard drive. So will Sony use that same approach? I say most likely. I don't see any scenario where Sony will allow you to play these new PlayStation 5 games off of an old mechanical hard drive, especially when they're like promoting this new super fast SSD so much. But that is the specs we have of the PlayStation 5. It's really interesting, though. They're pretty equally matched, though. Like, this is a crazy ton of power. Like, this is over twice the power of a PlayStation 4 Pro. And it's with this new RDNA and Zen 2 architectures, which should be a lot better. And honestly, games should look incredible this generation because of them. Like, I honestly can't pinpoint anything that I would say would be a bottleneck this generation. I say maybe storage, but storage is like an easy upgrade. I mean, it will be kind of expensive at first, but as time goes on, the cost of storage will drop like per gigabyte. But for the meantime, it might be a little bit expensive, but that's the only like maybe bottleneck I could see. But other than that, like, we got a really strong CPU, a really strong GPU. You got a lot of RAM. Memory is really fast, and the SSD is, it's a decent size, but it's really fast too. And yeah, I think it's going to be an incredible console. I can't wait to get one. But I'm going to be comparing it specifically to the Xbox Series X in another video, so if you guys are interested in that, you guys can go and check that out. But that is it for the PlayStation 5 specs. That's all we're going over for today, is just the specs of the PlayStation 5. Kind of exciting, but this basically confirms, just take this with a grain of salt though, but this is coming just from me, I say this pretty much confirms that the PlayStation 5 is going to be cheaper, because if it has less powerful hardware, it stands to reason that it won't cost as much as the Xbox Series X. So my guess for the pricing for this is going to be $400 for the PlayStation 5 and $500 for the Xbox Series X. I think that's what they're going to launch at, but nothing has actually been officially announced. No announcement on pricing has been released. But that is it for the PlayStation 5. We don't also have a release date or anything like that, or even a look at the console. I'm sure all that's going to come in due time. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.